Good day and welcome to the African News. We are broadcasting from Canada. I am Sandra Asante. Top stories. Ballot counting in Ethiopia as voting continues. 3 killed at polling station in Ethiopia. TDF laying partial siege to Mekelle city. UN said South Sudan behind shadow in peace processes. This and many more other stories coming up after the break. Stay tuned. You're welcome back from the break. Thank you so much for staying with me. To our first story, voting in Ethiopia is continuing in some parts of the country for a second day after challenges in some areas, while ballot counting has begun in most areas. The National Electoral Board of Ethiopia's chairperson, Batukan Medeska, said some constituencies and polling stations encountered problems, including shortages of ballot materials and unjustified intervention by local officials. The voting was extended by 3 hours across the country on Monday because of logistical challenges. The board said voting would resume on Tuesday in some areas of the eastern Ethiopia as well as in the western Oromia region. In the Sidama region, voting was postponed until Tuesday after less than half the ballot papers arrived, the Reuters news agency reported. Despite the difficulties, PM Abiy Ahmed praised the election as a historic day and the nation's first free and fair election. The PM has shared on Twitter pictures of Ethiopians queuing up to vote, which said show their commitment to the democratic process. The election came amid rising ethnic tension and conflict in the northern region of Tigray. Voting did not take part in almost a fifth of electoral areas, more than 100 of the 547 constituencies, including in the whole of Tigray. We are still in Ethiopia, and at least 3 people have been killed after an attack on the polling station 50 kilometers, that is the 30 miles from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. An electoral board official who wanted to remain anonymous told the BBC that the people who died on Monday morning's attack were a police officer, a militia member, and a local official. Armed men opened fire on people at the polling station in Ambo town, the source told the BBC. The attackers reportedly said the elections was a sham and they would disrupt the voting process. Ambo is in Oromia state, where the main opposition parties called for a boycott of the election. We move to our next story, still in Ethiopia, and Tigray's Defense Force and Ethiopia National Defense Force are making conflicting claims about the ongoing in Tigray. General Shambel of the ENDF claimed that Tigray Defense Force is suffering heavy losses in Tambian area. On the other hand, news sources aligned with the TPLF and the TDF are claiming that Mekelle's claims are mutually contradictory, conflicting claims. It's becoming increasingly difficult to report accurately about the ongoing war in Tigray. Initially, the TDF and the TPLF aligned news sources are claiming that the TDF have made considerable advance. Firstly, they said the PDF have advanced from the Mbe towards the main road highway of Tigray, and the Tigray Defense Forces have managed to cut off this highway to Agula and the road which connects Agula to Mekelle. The news sources are claiming once more that the road to the south of Mekelle has also been cut off by the Tigray Defense Force, so Mekelle is under the partial siege at a distance. Ethiopian National Defense Forces said that all these claims are false, and that General Shambel Feride said in an audio interview that the TDF suffered heavy losses in Tambian. We now look at a story in Kenya, and a Kenyan woman is facing a 30-year jail sentence after pleading guilty to fraud conspiracy involving romance scams in the U.S., the Justice Department in Massachusetts said. Florence Mbande Musa, who is 36, and 5 others are accused of defrauding people out of more than $14 million, that is 2.8 million euros. The other 5 accused remain not guilty until the court proves it, the department said in a statement. Ms. Musaus is allegedly to have used fake passports with different names to open bank accounts in and fro of Boston. The money was deposited in those, then transferred in several daily transactions, according to charging documents cited by the Justice Department. She is to be sentenced on 31st of October. The charge attracts a sentence of up to 30 years in prison, 5 years of supervised release, a fine of up to $1 million or twice the gross gain or loss, whichever is greater, restitution or for future. We are in South Sudan, and the formation of a unified national army is a critical element in South Sudan's transition to peace. Head of the UN peacemaking mission in South Sudan, the UNMISS Nicholas Haysom, has said. Mr. Haysom told the UN Secretary Council in New York City that the overall implementation of the September 2018 revitalized peace agreement was progressing slowly. He said on Monday that the formation and graduation of troops for the undefined forces that was critical to prevent a relapse to conflict was behind schedule. Troops continue to suffer in the cantonment site without adequate shelter, healthcare, and food. This is therefore important that precondition of a coherent command and control structure is finalized, followed by the graduation of the forces, Mr. Haysom said. He reported that intercommunal violence continued to cause insecurity and obstruct to realization of a double and sustainable peace in South Sudan. Mr. Haysom told the council that this year more than 80% of civilian casualties were contributed to intercommunal violence and community-based militias. Nevertheless, weak and absence of state governance institutions throughout South Sudan have enabled spoilers to exploit perennial communal and ethnic cleavages, and trans-security has hindered the cultivation of crops and has contributed to a vicious cycle of livestock raiding. Most communities are dangerously short of food supplies, he added. President Salva Kiir and his former rival Riek Machar, now first vice president, formed a unity government in February last year, but the country still faces major challenges, including the formation and graduation of undefined national army made up of 83,000 forces. This is where I end today's edition of the African News. My name is Sandra Asane. Thank you so much for watching.